All right, YouTube. So we are going to be doing characters who I think are going to be worth pulling for when it comes to the banners coming out in 4.1, the current banners of the new Elation characters, and then we have both MCs right over here, and we're going to depict this one as Silver Wolf SP, and then this one is Evanesia because their icons just are not part of this category. So we'll go ahead and go over the current characters, that being Sparksy and then Yao Guang. We'll start with Sparksy first, and quite frankly, I do think Sparksy is actually like really dang strong. Just as a preface, I have light cone, don't have but know how he works, no light cone, and then obviously I don't have these characters, and then I don't plan on pulling Asheville, so that kind of just says it as it is. But Sparksy, in terms of actual raw damage capabilities and what she's capable of doing, even if you don't have her light cone, honestly her damage output is still pretty significant. I did a damage comparison with her on her ideal setup, that being her ideal relic set. I switched it off with Finon's relic set, so it was a bunch of crit rate, a bunch of crit damage. Her output was still relatively the same on a bare minimum, like a super imposition 5 mushy light cone, which it's not necessarily the exact same general output as her signature light cone, but in terms of the actual damage capabilities, I want to say it was like at an S5 mushy, like I said, I want to say it was probably maybe a 8% to 10% difference. Like, it wasn't that bad. And obviously if you do have her light cone, she's phenomenal. And then E2, so there's a general sentiment when it comes to Sparksy, and that is that if you want her as a main DPS character, then boom, you have just E2. I'm sorry, E2. E2 is the main DPS threshold for Sparksy, but if you do plan on using her as a sub DPS character, when it comes to, again, in theory, a Silver Wolf SP team, then E1 is honestly very good. But just for the preface of this video, we're just going to be talking about the characters just in and of themselves, and I'm going to say Sparksy is actually S tier, in that she is a character you really should be getting if you do really want to experience Elation meta, because, you know, moving forward throughout Planet Arcadia, Elation is going to be the main preface and main focus of the entire planet slash region. Now, Yao Guang. And Yao Guang is a character who I don't think we're really going to get a whole lot of true understanding of her value when it comes to Elation characters. And if you are someone who wants to get Silver Wolf SP and doesn't want to get Evanesia, well, guess what? You're in luck, because ideally you want Sparksy with Sparkle on that specific team with a sustainer of your choice. But Evanesia is going to be wanting Yao Guang, and that's only what we know until 4.2. Beyond that, for whatever Elation character they want to be running, Yao Guang can very well be a top tier character, and that all stems from her basic ability of just the zone right here. Increasing all elation by 20% of Yao Guang's own elation stat, and that is very, very powerful. And you also have the ultimate that you can gain 5 punchline, instantly activate in a hot instant, that's at a fixed 20% or 20 punchline. And then if you do plan on getting E1, that punchline goes up to 40, and then all the elation damage is going to ignore 20% of the target's defense. So absolutely busted supporting character. And again, these characters are very, not really niche, but they're very important to have that understanding, because Elation is going to be a major focus, and these characters are going to be very, very good for Elation teams. So with that preface out of the way, if you do want to experience the elation meta, then I do think Yao Guang is honestly going to be an S tier character because of her value for what the team is going to be able to do with Yao Guang on the team compared to if she's not. Now, saying that, let's go ahead and go over 4.1. So we have the 4.0 characters, and I actually do think both of them are very strong, especially if you do plan on pulling for 4.2 characters, which we will be getting into that down the road. Now, the 4.1 characters, Asheville, right? He is a follow-up sub DPS character, and I did see a lot of videos about people talking about him, whether he is going to be absolutely busted, he's going to be extremely good with his gluttony and all of that fun jazz. I just don't see it. As someone who started Honkai Star Rail with the love for the dot team and then follow-up team, these two teams were my absolutely bread and butter of the game early on, and then, you know, obviously those teams have kind of like fallen to the wayside. But I do have all the follow-up characters. I have Robin, you know, the key support. But honestly, what I find interesting with Hoyo is doing with Asheville, and a little disappointing to be completely honest, is that the intention with Asheville, if you do plan on getting him, this is what your mentality should be when getting Asheville. You should have the understanding of he's not going to be your absolute best follow-up attack character. Ideally, you want him paired up with an E2 Fei Xiao, and even that is asking a lot, as Fei Xiao has fallen off quickly in the meta. Now, again, the main point of Asheville is what Hoyo is trying to do is, I mean, they're trying to sell a MILF character, that's in and of itself, but you're getting Asheville with the hope that you're going to be getting a main DPS follow-up attack character later down the line with better supporting characters. And we don't know how far down the line that's going to be. That could be 4.3, that could be 4.4, that could be even later up into like 5.x, right? We have no idea. And based off of that information, I don't think he's actually worth pulling for. He's strong in of himself, but also with the nerfs in the updated versions, I just don't think Asheville is worth getting. So moving over to Hyasin, and Hyasin is, I mean, she's absolutely goated. To be completely frank, in terms of a sustained character, that being preservation, that being like an abundance character, I do think it's Hyasin, it's Danhong PT, and it's Huahua as like the three pillars of like the sustained meta, and Aventurine is like right there too. But Hyasin is absolutely key. Obviously, it doesn't hurt, right, to be part of the best team in the game, that being the Remembrance team, but she's also very strong when it comes to a dot team with Kafka, with Hyasin, with Hyacinthia. It's absolutely insane. So I do think she's absolutely worth getting if you don't have her. And then obviously if you get her light cone, like, you're essentially just getting another character on top of that. So I do think she is an S tier with these characters, but I do think if you want to experience the full elation meta, these two are going to be your main focus and priority, given the fact that they're going to be pairing nicely with the 4.2 characters. Bootill, I'm just gonna say, you are such a disappointment now. I do think in terms of what you're capable of doing with the current teams that we have, I do think he's actually slightly better than Asheville, but he does not fit in this A tier category, which I just don't think there's going to be any characters in that A tier category. Spoiler. Bootill is in a very weird situation. He is competing with two other main DPS characters for the break meta, one of which that we are going to be getting a Nova Flame. Where are you? Firefly. We're going to be getting a Nova Flame for Firefly, which is insane because she just got a support in the Dahlia, and if you have the Dahlia paired up with Firefly, it's very, very good. And then obviously if you have the break fire combo with these 4 characters, like the team is very good, which is surprising given the fact that, you know, Firefly is going to be getting a Nova Flame like already instantly. But he's not just competing with Firefly, you're also competing with Rappa, who in and of herself is just a better character than Bootill because of her ability to AoE, where Bootill is just a single attacking character, and that is the hindrance for him because he is of the hunt path. He's a single target DPS character. His numbers are great, but the issue is that he's just single target, and with the way the meta is going, you're gonna have more and more and more characters who have higher HP inflation, and you want characters who are going to be doing damage to AoE targets. Firefly is capable of that in her enhanced state, and then Rappa is capable of that with her like ninja star throws. Like, it's just, he's competing against 2 characters who just in of themselves are just a tier above him. And again, Firefly getting a Nova Flame, it's going to be very exciting to see what she is going to be capable of doing. I'm super excited for that, but that just leaves Bootill in the dust. Maybe he can have some resurgence when he gets a Nova Flame of himself, but I do think just end all be all, the fact that he is of the hunt path, I do think makes him not as valuable as an erudition or a destruction character, because they have the capability of attacking multiple enemies. Now, moving over to 4.2, here we go. We're gonna have Silverwolf SP. So currently right now, the speculation is that Silverwolf SP is going to have a enhanced ultimate, meaning similar to the likes of our boy Finon, is that Silverwolf SP is going to transform into like her quote-unquote dragon form with the visor and everything, and her main overall damage is going to be through her ultimate based off the amount of punchline you currently have and all of that. So what that means is you want more skill points consumed, get more punchline and everything. So that's why she's going to be pairing up nicely with Sparkle and Sparksy, because you want more punchline, you want that damage number to be astronomically high. That is the current information at the time of this recording. Obviously next week when the actual beta goes live, we can have a full breakdown and discuss what these 2 characters are going to be doing, and the other character is going to be Evanescia. Quite frankly, I just don't know what she's going to be doing. She's going to be pairing up, well, I guess we'll use this character. She's going to be pairing up, like, this is going to be your core team of an Evanescia team. You're going to have Evanescia, you're going to have Yao Guang, and then you're going to have the Elation MC. So it's going to be interesting what those 2 characters are. But again, if you take just these 2 out, right, and just put them back down here, honestly, in terms of overall value for an account, what you plan on doing for an account, or for characters who can actually boost your overall value of your account to help you with harder and harder and harder end game content because of the HP inflation, these 3 characters, in no particular order, right? You have to take your own account into perspective of what you have, what your plans are, and understand that. But I do think these 3 characters are the most valuable. If you really had to ask me, like, okay, these 3 characters, who I don't have any of them, right? And I have like everybody else in the game. Let's just have that preface. Then honestly, at that point, I would actually say it probably shifts to like this. Yao Guang, like I said, I do think is very strong, and I do think she's going to be the best Elation supporter. But the fact that her best capability, quite frankly, is E1, is that you boost that aha punchline like threshold to 40 instead of 20, and that boosts the overall damage. But what these 2 characters are fully capable of doing with no Eidolons and with their light cones is just astronomically high. You have arguably the best healer in the game, and right now, quite frankly, you have one of the best DPS characters in the game. She has an argument, which is insane, because she's going to be a sub DPS character on a 4.2 banner, or a 4.2 team moving on. So that's just what I feel about the top 3 characters. And then these 2, quite frankly, they have fallen off. Asheville, he was gutted. if they did minor tweaks to his kit instead of just absolutely gutting him from V3 to V4, then we would have a different conversation. Honestly, he would be up here in A tier, and you can make a strong argument for Asheville being a character that, yeah, I'm going to summon for it. That's why I'm going to wait for whatever follow-up attack character comes out in the future. But because of what he's capable of doing, because of the trajectory that Plan Arcadia is going, where our focus and priority is going to be of the elation path, and that's what they're going to be pushing for, you're essentially waiting for possibly a very, very late 4.x follow-up attack character, or even a 5.x character in and of itself. And then Bootill, he has just too much competition right here with other break characters, one of which is getting a Nova Flame. So I do think these three characters are going to be your top priority when it comes to overall expenditure of your Stellar Jades.